The Chargers are back. Yeah.
The Chargers are back.
Welcome to Chargers Talk 4630. Say what's up to Stacey, the host. Always keeping it real though. Rocking with the Chargers since 78. From San Diego up to 5 Mile, LA State. Powder blues clean. Don't let the colors fool you. Jim Harbaugh running the show. Yeah, the coach is brutal. Back to back, double digit wins. Set the tone. Lost a few pieces, but we locked in. Fully loaded zone. Eyes on the future. Yeah, we speak it into heaven. Super Bowl is so far. 2027. I'm saying your team sidelines nervous. Yeah, they know what it be. Mike McDaniel in the offense scheming like demons, huh? Chris O'Leary in the building.
Defense! Defense!
Yeah, 3 about to tell us what this team really meant. Playoff run longer, yeah, we put them to sleep. If you want Chargers everything, this is the place to be. Chargers Talk 4630. Nobody's got it better than us. Hey, share and subscribe. Enjoy the show.
This episode of Chargers Talk 4630 is brought to you by Zevo Life, the exclusive patented superfood changing the way people fuel their bodies. Now listen, if you're looking for a game-changing way to improve your health, Zevo Life is the world's most nutrient-dense whole plant. We're talking over 50% plant protein, essential amino acids, fiber, and powerful antioxidants, all in one natural source. Just 1 teaspoon a day supports your gut, boosts your energy, and promotes healthier skin and hair. And the best part, people everywhere are giving it a 5-star review because it works. So if you're ready to feel the difference, head over to Zevo.life and start your journey with their 30-day risk-free guarantee. And because you're a loyal listener of this podcast, you get an exclusive 30% discount. Just use my code ChargeTalk4630 at checkout. That's without the R. That's ChargeTalk4630. Take control of your health today with Zevo Life. Your body will thank you. Hello and welcome to Chargers Talk 4630. I'm Stacey, and on Thursday, April 23rd, the NFL Draft officially kicked off in Pittsburgh. And with the 22nd overall pick, the Chargers made their first big move of the draft, selecting Akheem Mesidor, a pick that immediately got people talking. And as soon as the selection was made, me and Adam Schultz connected to break down what this pick means for the Chargers, especially on the defensive side of the football. We talked about the impact that Mesidor can have, why the Chargers may have gone in this direction, and how this choice fits into the bigger picture of what Jim Harbaugh and this front office is trying to build. After that interview, I break down the full draft through Saturday regarding the rest of the Chargers draft class and what it all means moving forward. But right now, let's get into my conversation with Adam Schultz as we discuss the Chargers' first-round pick, Akheem Mesidor. Hello and welcome back to Chargers Talk 4630. I'm Stacey, and as always, I appreciate every single one of you for joining me today. And if you're new to this channel, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and share the show. You can also catch Chargers Talk 4630 wherever you get your podcasts. We're everywhere. Man, what a first night of the NFL draft last night. The Chargers came into round 1 with the 22nd overall pick. And like a lot of people, many expected offensive line help, maybe another guard, maybe another weapon for Justin Herbert. But Joe Ortiz and Jim Harbaugh had a different vision. Instead, they went defense and selected Akheem Mesidor out of Miami. And let me tell you, that pick got people talking. Some fans love it because they see a violent, explosive defender who can bring pressure and toughness and attitude to this defense. Others are questioning the pick, especially with his age, because at 25 years old, people immediately start asking, is he too old for a first-round pick? But here's the reality, though. College football has changed. And with NIL, players are staying in school longer, making real money, building their brands. And sometimes it makes more financial sense than rushing to the NFL as a late-round pick. So now 24 and 25-year-old rookies are becoming a lot more common. And honestly, we all better get used to it. The bigger question is simple. Can he play? Because if Akheem Mesidor comes in here and helps this Chargers defense and get after quarterbacks, collapse pockets and create chaos alongside Khalil Mack, Tui Pelotu, Dalen Henley, Derwin James, and Denzel Perriman, nobody is going to ask how old this guy was on draft night. And why are we even talking about 25 like he's 50? He's still a young man. Today, I've got a great guest joining me to break all this down. Adam Schultz from the Sporting News. He covers the NFL and follows both the Dallas Cowboys and writes articles also on the Los Angeles Chargers. And we're going to talk to him about whether this was the right pick, what it means for the defense, and how NIL is changing the draft process, and what should the Chargers do next with picks 55 and 86 heading into tonight. So let's get right into it. Adam, welcome back, man. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. How did you like the draft yesterday? Day 1. Was it crazy?
It was crazy. It was fast, man.
Yeah,
that was the thing that I took about. Like, it was only 10 minutes to 8 minutes per pick.
Yeah.
But it just seemed like it flew.
Yes, like it was moving every 5 minutes. I was going back and forth watching ESPN. I had the double screen up with ESPN and NFL Network, and one was way behind. On one on ESPN, they were like 2 picks ahead of the NFL Network. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was weird. I think all the networks they were just trying to adjust. I think because 2 minutes doesn't sound like a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. A little bit of a few teething problems, I think.
Yeah. Well, look, let's jump right into this, man. Going into the draft, most mock drafts had the Chargers taking an offensive lineman, especially at guard, or even adding more help for Justin Herbert. Were you surprised they went defense and selected Akheem Mesidor at 22?
A little bit. But I go back to Harbaugh's comments. I think it was at the owners' meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And he said about McDaniel's scheme and how that's going to help Herbert in protection. He was essentially saying that there's not going to be as many just solo dropbacks where it's just pure pass protection. So I think McDaniel's scheme is going to help a lot. But then also at the same time, you don't want to reach for a lineman, and all the top ones, Ioane and the like, they were all gone within the first half of the round. So you're not going to reach for a lineman. And then Mesidor, they need pass rush help. Yeah, that's an obvious one there. People say his age. You can look at it like that, but then we're in the world now of NFL where people want results straight away. Yeah. So do you want someone who's going to be experienced like he is, 25, I think 25, he is? Yeah. So can he come in and be productive straight away? You're not going to have to. Obviously, there's going to be some teething problems as he adjusts to pro football. I get people saying about his age because it's like, well, okay, he's a first-round pick, 4 years plus a fifth-year option, so he'll be 30 by the time he's due for his second contract. At the same time, if he comes in and he's getting 7, 8, 9 sacks and Harbaugh's using him and he's being productive, age is out the window. So I think I like the pick because it filled the need. They didn't reach. Yeah. And it's just going to have to be, you're just going to, like with every other pick, you're just going to have to wait and see how it plays out. Yeah, it definitely filled the need. I mean, the Chargers were, they're long in the tooth a little bit. The edge rusher position, linebacker, you have Denzel Perriman is up there in age. He's always been a liability in coverage, but he's a good run stuffer. Then you have Bud Dupree, that's long in the tooth. Khalil Mack this probably will be his last year. So it definitely filled the need. And this guy, a lot of the linebackers the Chargers have been getting over the years, they've been like smaller guys, undersized to me, like 228 pounds. And this guy is like 260, 265, depending on what source you check out. And at 6'3", he's a big, thick guy. And he used to be play on the defensive line a couple of years ago, lost a little bit of weight, came down to 265. And I mean, he was great coming off the edge. I'm not calling him this next guy I'm going to bring up, but looking at his footage, because I was thinking offense, they're going to go guard. They're going to take some on the line. So I didn't do a lot of studying on him, but I quickly ran and started pulling up film and start watching this guy. And his bend and everything coming off the edge, he lines up over the guard. He comes down the middle. He definitely a big-time run stuffer. He reminded me of Von Miller watching him. You know what I mean? So I'm the more I look at him and the more I see and read on this guy, the more I like the pick. Yeah. Well, I'm not into college scouting and stuff, if you say so. I always defer to other people. Yeah. So the things that I've seen and read, because he was linked with the Cowboys as well when Dallas was picking at 20. Yeah. So obviously I heard a little bit of stuff there. Mm-hmm. He definitely has some violence. He good in the run game as well. So it's just going to be how Harbaugh uses him. Is he going to be a starter? Is he going to be top of the rotation? Simply because of his age, he might be able to just plug and play, and away he goes, and just let him go hunt the quarterback. So it's going to be interesting. I think, like I said, we're in the day and age now where people want results straight away. Yeah. I think if anything, his age might help him a little bit. I think so. Because he's obviously been in the system, and we've seen it with quarterbacks. People are a little bit like, if they've only had 15, 20 starts, they don't have that college experience. Whereas Mesidor, I think he's had 5 years, of playing college football. So he's got the snaps. It's just going to be whether that can transition to the NFL.
I know a lot of people were worried about that a little bit, but I think we got to start getting used to that because of the NIL. You know, you're going to get a lot more guys, rookies, that are going to be 24, 25 years old. It's just the way the NFL is right now. And it definitely feel the need because you had Junior Colson, who they drafted a couple of years ago. And surprisingly, he looked lost out there. Unfortunately, injuries kept him from being on the field. He's been hurt a lot. And the times he's been on the field, he's looked lost. He's been out of position. He's missing a lot of tackles. And I'm surprised by that because he was in Michigan with Mentor. So he was in the same defense with Michigan. So, and he was supposed to take over for Denzel Perriman. Perriman was supposed to be backing up, but he ended up starting because Junior Colson just was coming along so slow. So a lot of fans are talking about Mesidor being 25 years old, that we were just saying. And do you think the concern is overblown, or is age something teams should seriously factor in when making a first-round selection?
I think it's more teams might look at it as, are we going to get a second contract out of this guy? Because at the end of the day, that's what they want. They want longevity. So he's 25 now, so 4 years, assuming he produces well enough. Yeah. So he'll be 29. If they pick up the fifth-year option, 30, then you've got a 30-year-old pass rusher. Mm-hmm. Okay, then what do you do? Right. Because that's been some of the talk around Jermod McCoy with his knee issue. Right. A lot of stuff I was reading and listening to was, especially with the Cowboys, is that some people were like, are they going to get a second contract out of him? Right. And for a first-round pick, you want great returns on that pick. Absolutely. So I get the concerns because we're used to seeing 20, 21-year-olds come in, and by the time they're 25, they could already have 2 or 3 Pro Bowls and they already established themselves in the league. Now you've got someone who's 25 as a rookie. So I think, like you said, it's probably the way things are going to be going now with NIL. Yeah. Players are going to be staying a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to be, we might look back on this pick in 2 or 3 years and might be like, wow, yep, that's going to be the way teams are going to be looking for the older prospects. Yeah. Because you would hope that there's not going to be that break-in period where it's going to take them 10, 12 games to finally start getting a foot in. With Mesidor, it might only be 4 or 5. Right. Conversely, you might look back on it in 2 or 3 years and they might be like, oh, yeah, okay, we're going to have to not go with those guys because you're just not going to get the value. Mm-hmm. Because by the time they're due for their second contract, or they're only in the league for 3 or 4 years, they're already pushing 30. I think that's what teams will have to factor in, I think.
I was actually surprised that, listening to a lot of the different analysts, they really was, making a deal of the fact that he was 25. I was kind of surprised by that. I looked it up. Akheem Mesidor, he's set to sign a 4-year contract. So I think the best case scenario is that hopefully, for the Chargers' sake, he balls out. Let's say he balls out the first 3 years. And they want to redo that contract, in which will make him 28 at the time. That would be the best case scenario. Yeah. And usually when guys come in early first round picks and they come in and they ball out, they really the agent starts saying, listen, he outperformed the contract. It's time to rip this up and give him another one. So I'm hoping that's best case scenario. I don't want it to be 29, 30. I want him to, if he get a new contract at 28, that means that's good for the Chargers that he's balling out.
Yeah, that means he's doing something right. And the thing is he's 25 and we're talking about 4 years, then the 5th-year option. Like you said, if it's halfway through year 3 and he's not only a viable option, but he's actually making significant impact. Yeah. Then there's nothing stopping the Chargers from, like you said, at 28 in the prime, right? 2 or 3 year deal, then he's going to be 30, 31. We've seen the way free agency goes now, teams, the amount of money being thrown around is ridiculous. Oh, yeah. But
the revenue keep getting bigger. As long as the revenue keeps growing, these salaries going to keep getting bigger.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's just whether teams see the value of knowing that they can give a guy a second contract versus like the age when they come in. So like I said before, I think we'll see like kind of what to expect the next 2 or 3 years. If it's going to be a trend, Because like you said, there was a lot of question marks about his age coming in.
Yeah.
And if he plays well, who cares if he's 25?
Yeah. But looking at this current Chargers defense, right, with Khalil Mack, Tui Pelotu, he's rising. Dayan Henley is developing. Derwin James still leading the way. And now you got Akheem Mesidor added. How dangerous can this front seven become now?
Well, I think you've seen under Minter last year, you've seen what they can become. Yes, there's going to be changes, but I think week in, week out, you're going to know that it's just going to be tough to play against them.
Yeah.
I think last year the thing that was missing was just a genuine out and out person who could go and take a quarterback's soul. Yes. Now, whether you have that with Mesidor or not is unknown. Yes, first round pick, everyone, looks at his tape, knows what he can do. But as we know, even for first round picks, you're still not guaranteed that it's going to be the player that you think they're going to be.
This is true.
So I think it's like you said, with Derwin James locking down that secondary, they're still going to be hard to play against.
Yeah.
They're still going to make it a dogfight. And I think that's where I've been so vocal, is that's why you've got to, on the other side of the ball, you've got to get the pieces in place. So Herbert, because you look at last year, half of the game, I think, what they lose, 6 games last year, I think.
Including the playoffs, yes.
Yeah. I think if Herbert doesn't have to, like with that defense, they're keeping most teams to 20, 22.
Yeah.
So
under that, yeah.
Yeah, so he doesn't have to do a lot.
Right.
So like I said, I think we know the baseline, and if Mesidor can just bring them up that 5-10%, then I think they're going to be cooking. They were cooking last year.
Yeah.
I think it's just going to be new coordinator. Is it going to be roughly same scheme, verbiage, things like that? Yeah. But my concerns aren't defensively. They're the other side of the ball.
You got Jamari Caldwell, very underrated, 340-pound, big-time run stuffer, played very well. I'm expecting another level that he jump up. You got Tia Tart. You got Dalvin Tomlinson that you picked up. So that all these guys are 300-plus and very athletic. So these guys should let these linebackers have the opportunity to roam around and make plays all over the field. So I like how they are rounding out this defense.
Yeah, Tomlinson in the middle is just an absolute monster. Yes. He can occupy 2 blockers, and then you're going to have guys like Mesidor, Mack on the outside getting one-on-one opportunities.
Yeah,
like that before. The defense isn't necessarily a worry for me per se, because roughly know what you're going to get. The Chargers, in my opinion, are only going to go as far as Herbert can take them.
Right. Now, there were some fans who obviously they were hoping for a guard or an interior offensive lineman to help out in round 1. But do you think the Chargers passed on the bigger immediate need, or was taking the best defensive player available a smart move?
I think it was a smart move. And going back to Harbaugh's comments at the owners' meeting, to me it seemed like a lot of the questions I had about the offensive line and why they didn't address it in free agency was pretty much answered there. Is that they were basically banking on, one, the return of Slater and Alt, your 2 bookend tackles.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be scheme. It's not going to have Herbert in many pure drop back scenarios where players have to hold up for 3 or 4 seconds.
Yeah.
It's going to be a marry of the run and the pass. So like Harbaugh said, it's just so you freeze that defense for a second. And as you know, in the NFL, time is money. So if you freeze someone up for a second, the pass rushers have to just stop what's happening. And by that stage, it's the play's gone. So I think I understand fans wanting a offensive lineman in the first round, but all the good ones were, like the stars, were taken early.
Yeah.
So I don't think they really needed to reach to grab one. It's more going to be in the second, third rounds where they have a pick to, if they want to, maybe get a rotational depth piece, maybe even a starter, depending how they view them.
As we head into pick 55 in round 2 and pick 86 in round 3, where do you think the Chargers focus at next? Like offensive line, wide receiver, tight end, corner, or somewhere else? Where do you think they target next?
I think it has to be not has to be, but in my opinion, I think offensive line has to be, like, you have to get depth there. We saw last year, once one player went down, the drop off in production was just ridiculous. And Herbert was he was a sitting duck back there. Can't have that again. Otherwise, you're going to be looking at another Andrew Luck situation for Herbert. So I think offensive line, receiver, how do they feel about Quinton Johnson? Is he going to be the guy they can count on take another leap for Herbert? Because they still really don't have a bona fide number one. They've got Lad McConkey. Is he your number one going into 2026? And the thing is that people always seem to forget, and especially some Cowboys fans, that they get in a bit of a tizzy when they don't spend straight away in free agency, but then they forget that Dallas made a trade for George Pickens almost halfway through the offseason. Yeah. So just because you don't get someone now, or when it first starts, the free agency first starts, doesn't mean you're not going to get someone. But I think, for me, I think it has to be offensive line, just purely for depth, and maybe a potential player who can maybe push someone like a Cole Strange and make it a genuine battle.
I really do believe that Lad McConkey is going to flourish under Mike McDaniel's offense. You know, I really do. We saw what he did his rookie year, like 1,200 yards receiving. Even in the playoff game against the Texans, he had 180-something yards and a touchdown. This guy's legit. You know, when Keenan came, a lot of those balls that used to go to Lad went back to Keenan. There was some bad play calling by Greg Roman. And I think that you'll start seeing more explosive plays from him under Mike McDaniels this year, like you saw in his rookie year. Joe Ortiz, he talked a lot about like staying flexible and being willing to move around on the board. But do you see the Chargers staying put, or would trading back to gain more draft capital makes the most sense? Because they only got 5 draft picks, and now they have 4 after last night. I could really see a scenario, and I want to know, do you see a scenario where they could trade back? Do you see a scenario like that? I do. I think they need more picks.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to come down to, one, how does the board fall before them? Do they have their eyes on 2 or 3 players, and by the time it comes to them, are they going to be like, oh, yep, so even if we stay put, it might not get A and B, but C is going to be that, okay, great, stay put, select, and we're golden. As far as trading back, I think it's going to be, are you going to have a team behind you that is going to see value in leapfrogging you, and then are the Chargers going to get value for that? So second round, I'm not sure where they pick. I assume it's going to be late second round. It's going to be, are they going to want to stay put and see how the board falls to them? Or like you said, are they going to be like, okay, who's behind us? Let's pick up the phone. Even if it's just an extra 4th round pick, something like that, just more players in. I think I definitely see both scenarios. It's just going to be a question of whether, one, how the board falls, because someone might fall into their lap, like the Cowboys yesterday with Downs. They only had to move up 1 spot. All the mock drafts were saying that they'd have to move up to 6 to get him. Yeah. So someone might be sitting there for the Chargers, and they might be thinking that, oh, we're gonna have to trade up. We're gonna have to get him, and then they fall into their lap and they're sitting pretty. But then conversely, do you need more picks? Like you said, try and pick up an extra 3rd or an extra 4th to get more players in. So I think if no one tickles their fancy as it's coming to their time to be on the clock, I think you can easily see them trading back.
What would have to happen for people to say the Chargers absolutely nailed that 22nd pick with Akheem Mesidor?
In an ideal world, he has 12 sacks, is an all-pro, and just blows it out of the water. I think if you can look back at this time next year and Chargers fans can think, yeah, we got one here. Whether that's someone who, like I said, just blows it up on the field, or whether someone who's just really productive and you know that you know what you're going to get from him week in, week out, whether that's just like with Micah Parsons when he was in Dallas. Yeah, he might not have got the total sack numbers. Yeah. But the pressures and just the way he could alter the game, not saying that Mesidor was going to be like that. Yeah. But if you can get something close where he's productive and he's affecting the game and doing it in a way where then it can set up opportunities for others, and then you can sit back and be like, okay, yeah, Mesidor, there was concerns about his age, but nah, we got one here. I think if Chargers fans can see that and be like, he's productive, and we know that we've got a good one here, I think they'll be reasonably happy, I think.
I think he can come in from what we've seen. Of course, it has to be proven on the football field when he become a pro. From everything I read about this guy, from all of his accolades, I think he had like 53 tackles for loss. He's been very productive as a pass rusher, very good as a run stuffer. I think he can come in and give us a little bit more than what we got from Odafe because Odafe brought a lot of energy. When Khalil Mack went down for those 5 weeks, Tui Pelotu started getting double teamed, and it kind of like took him away, and there was nobody else on the other side. So they went and got Odafe, and he came in, and his first snap with the Chargers was a sack.
Yeah.
And he started commanding a lot of attention, and then Tuli exploded again because now you got to give attention over here. I think he can give you that and a little bit more. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's also, like you said, if he's been productive on one side, it's going to free up other players as well. So it's not necessarily just going to be about his numbers. It's going to be how is he going to affect the game? How is he going to create opportunities for others? So obviously he's going to get sacks. Question of how many. But for me, it's more of, okay, yeah, he can get his own. How is he going to open things up for others? Because that was the thing about Micah that I loved, is that he was such a game wrecker that defenses had to plan for him.
Yeah.
But it was what he did for others. Like he would burst through on the edge.
Yes.
He might not get the sack, but then quarterback has to come up in the pocket and then bang, sack, done.
I saw several times on defensive formations when they had Tui Pelotu, Khalil Mack. You had Odafe and Bud Dupree on the field at the same time. Mentor was crazy with those formations. Yeah. And I mean, if it can look like that, I'm happy. And he's a first-round pick. Just health. Right. If you could just stay healthy, you give.
That's the thing. If you can just remove all the ladders in the buildings, don't break a mirror.
Yeah. I mean, you know, injury's going to happen sometime, but it was just weird the way you lost. I mean, these wasn't just tackles around league. A lot of teams do not have an all-pro left tackle and a Pro Bowl right tackle. A lot of teams don't have that. You lost both of them, you know.
Yeah. And like some teams don't even have Pro Bowl caliber tackles either.
Yes.
You know, and you guys had them, and, you know, that's why I still think you just need some depth.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. And if you can't get that, then just get Justin some more weapons and just say, hey, yeah, you might score 32, but we're going to score 35. Let's play football.
Okay. I don't want it to be that scenario. You know, I like that defense. You know, I still believe in people. I know this is a passing league, but you still got to be able to stop people, you know.
Yeah. So, and like Seattle and the Patriots, prime example of that last year.
Absolutely.
You know?
Seattle was crazy with it. Yes. All right, Adam, it was great, man. Thank you. I always appreciate you coming on and share your insights with me, man. And but thank you a lot, man. I'm gonna close it out and everything, but I appreciate you, man, as always. I'm gonna get done. I'm gonna get me something to eat, have me a little drink, and watch day 2 of the draft and see what brings, you know, with the Chargers, you know.
Pray for a lineman. Let's go.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. Take care, man. Good talking to you.
Beautiful. Thanks, Stacey.
Okay. Great stuff from Adam Schultz today. I appreciate him taking the time to come on and break this all down with me. Adam and myself, we actually became friends after that podcast. When we stopped recording, we spent the hour and a half on the phone just talking about life and a whole host of other things. So now when we reach out to each other, it's more than just talking business. We are two people that's become friends over time. The conversations went all over the place and touched on so many things. Adam, thank you for that, and look forward to talking with you soon. I tell you, we need more people to sit down and have civil conversations about things, especially topics we disagree on, but we walk away with our dignity and respect for each other, right? All right, so let's get back to round 1, which is officially in the books. And whether you love the Akheem Mesidor pick or you still question it, one thing is clear. Joe Ortiz and Jim Harbaugh have a plan, and they are building this roster the right way. The Chargers still hold pick 55 in round 2 and pick 86 in round 3. This is where drafts can really be won, right? Do they go offensive line? Do they find another weapon for Justin Herbert? Do they add more depth at corner, tight end, or wide receiver? Or do they trade back and stack more draft capital? That's where things get really interesting because first round picks get the headlines, but rounds 2 and 3 are where championship rosters get built. So stay locked in. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share the show. And what should the Chargers do next at 55 and 86? We don't know. But for now, we're going to stop back at the top and go through this entire draft class from Akheem Mesidor all the way to Alex Harkey and really break down what each of these picks could mean for the future of the Chargers. So let's join your guy, Stacey, on a pre-recorded podcast breaking down the rest of the draft class. Listen. Hello, welcome back to Chargers Talk 4630. I'm Stacey, and today we're breaking down what the Los Angeles Chargers have done in the 2026 NFL Draft, starting with their first-round pick, Akheem Mesidor. And then the big day 2 move where Joe Ortiz made a smart trade back with the New England Patriots before selecting Jake Slaughter, center out of Florida. Let's start with Akheem Mesidor. Heading into this draft, there was a lot of mystery surrounding who the Chargers was going to take with the 22nd pick, right? Most of the mock drafts had them going offensive line. A lot of people had them taking a guard, maybe even a tackle, because protecting Justin Herbert is always going to be the number one priority. But Joe Ortiz and Jim Harbaugh decided to go defense first. They took Akheem Mesidor out of Miami, and honestly, when you look at the player, it makes complete sense. This looks like a Jim Harbaugh player. He plays like a Jim Harbaugh player, and now he is a Jim Harbaugh player. Mesidor is expected to come in as an edge 3 behind Khalil Mack and Tuli Tuipulotu on the depth chart. I don't think he starts day 1, but absolutely think he plays a major role immediately. By week 4 or 5, if he plays to his potential, those reps should start increasing really fast. This is a player with a nonstop motor. He chases quarterbacks like the play personally offended him. He brings intensity off the edge, but what makes him even more valuable is he can also slide inside on passing downs and work in sub packages, right? That kind of versatility really matters. The Chargers needed another real pass rushing threat because while Khalil Mack is still productive, he and Bud Dupree both are getting later in their careers. This team needed another young hammer up front, and Mesidor fits just that. He's physical, he's violent at the point of attack, he's strong against the run. He's one of those defenders that plays with reckless abandon in the best possible way. He's not finesse, he's force. And when you watch the tape, especially this past season at Miami, there were moments where his film looked like a top 10 pick. Against both the run and the pass, he was dominant. Max Crosby was on his podcast, and he gave his comments on what he thought about the Chargers' first-round pick, Akheem Mesidor. Listen.
So this is my guy. This is my guy I'm going with. And I'm going pure off not opinion and all this other shit. I'm going off a straight film and what I've seen. Mesidor, just watching some of his tape, his bend is crazy. The way he's able to get around the edge, the way he's able to get off the ball, he's freaky.
Wow, man, that's some really good stuff. And say what you want to say about Max Crosby because he's a Raider and all, but he is one of the best elite pass rushers in our game. So when he endorses a player as strong as he has for Akheem Mesidor, that's saying something. Mesidor's PFF pass rushing grade was elite, over 92, and his run defense was strong too. That tells you this isn't just hype. The production is real. I think people that are bothered by his age shouldn't be worried too much. He's 25 years old, which is old for a first-round rookie. I get it. By the time he's up for his second contract, in a perfect scenario, he will be 28 after 3 years and hopefully a productive 3 years. And then they will have to rip up his rookie contract because he would have outperformed it, right? The Chargers are basically betting on getting the best version of him right now, not waiting 3 years for development. So for some that was all over social media saying he's too old, let me just say to you, he may not have been the flashiest pick as all of us had our hearts set on our favorites, right? That we wanted to bring into the first round. He may not be the flashy pick. He may not be the sexiest pick. But for a team trying to win during Justin Herbert's prime, sometimes you don't draft for the next 5 years. You draft for right now. And Mesidor feels like a right now player. He may not be the long-term superstar some wanted, but he can absolutely be an immediate impact defender for a team trying to push deeper into the playoffs. Now let's move to day 2 because this is where Joe Ortiz really showed why he was brought here. The Chargers originally held pick number 55 in the second round, but instead of staying there, they made a trade with the New England Patriots. They moved back from 55 to 63 and picked up 2 more selections. A 4th-round pick at 131, a 6th-round pick at 202. That was a masterful move. This is exactly why having Joe Ortiz as your general manager really matters. His experience working under Ozzie Newsome with the Baltimore Ravens shows up in moments just like this. This wasn't panic. This was strategy. The Chargers started this draft with only 5 total picks. They needed depth bad. And instead of forcing the selection at 55, Ortiz moved back, still got his guy, and added more draft capital. That is smart roster building. That is how good front offices operate, right? And with that 63rd pick, the Chargers selected Florida center Jake Slaughter. Now, when it comes to Jake Slaughter, I'm going to be honest with you. When the pick first came in, I wasn't crazy about it. From a fan standpoint, I really wanted Emmanuel Pregnon that was still on the board. That was the name I kept looking at. That was the guy personally that I wanted. So when the Chargers took Jake Slaughter, my first reaction wasn't excitement. My first thought was, man, we passed on Pregnon. But then you step back and remind yourself of something important. I'm a fan. I'm not a scout. I'm not in those draft rooms. I'm not sitting in interviews with these players. I'm not watching private workouts. I'm not sitting in meetings and breaking down protections and scheme fits, right? Joe Ortiz, Jim Harbaugh, the Chargers scouts, the player personnel department, those guys do this for a living. This is what they get paid for. And the deeper you look into it, the more this pick starts to make sense to me. Because drafting isn't always about taking the biggest name available. It's about taking the right player for your system. That matters. All 32 teams in the National Football League have different schemes. They have different philosophies. They have different ways that they want to run offense and defense, different blocking systems, different responsibilities, different expectations. Sometimes a guy can be drafted high, struggle for 3 or 4 years, and everybody calls him a bust, right? Then he goes to another team into a different scheme that actually fits his skill set, and all of a sudden, he looks like the player everyone thought he would be. That happens all the time because talent matters, but fit matters too. And when you really study Jake Slaughter, this looks like a perfect scheme fit. Yes, he played center his entire college career, over 2,100 snaps, 0 snaps at guard. He was one of the best pure centers in college football. Yes, he was. But what the Chargers are looking at is his athleticism, his intelligence, his movement skills, and how that translates into what offensive coordinator Mike McDaniel wants to do. This offense is about movement. It's about angles. It's about lateral agility. It's about getting linemen who can think fast, move fast, and operate cleanly in space, right? That's where Jake Slaughter fits. He may not be the biggest mauler. He may not be the flashiest name, but he processes fast. He handles pressure well, and his pass protection is already NFL ready. And that matters when your job is protecting Justin Herbert. And if you look around the league, especially with the teams like the Miami Dolphins, you'll notice something. You didn't always know those guards before they got there. Guys like Cole Strange, people didn't talk much about him. He was a first-round pick with the New England Patriots. He was released 3 years later. But when he got into the right system, which was the Miami Dolphins with Mike McDaniel, people started seeing the fit. That's what this is about. Sometimes it's not about drafting the biggest, strongest, nastiest lineman on the board. Sometimes it's about finding the guy who fits exactly what your offense is trying to do. And the more I looked at Jake Slaughter, the more I understood that. So no, I wasn't thrilled at first, but the deeper I got into it, the more I realized this may actually be a perfect Mike McDaniel fit. And if that fit helps keep Justin Herbert upright and gives this offense better protection inside, nobody is going to care where he played in college. They're just going to care that it worked. And let's be real. If he locks down left guard and gives Justin Herbert cleaner pockets, nobody's going to care what position he played in college. That's the goal. And also look at the depth we have now. You know, the more positions you could play, the more valuable you are. And that makes you a big asset to the team, right? If they can coach him up to be efficient at guard, and you should have some injuries, he will be able to spell relief at left guard, right guard, as well as center, right? Backing up Tyler Biadasz. That's great value and depth that we didn't have last year. So right now, after 2 major moves, I think the Chargers have done exactly what they needed to do. They added immediate pass rush help with Akheem Mesidor. They added offensive line help with Jake Slaughter. And Joe Ortiz created more draft capital by moving back and still landing the guy they wanted. Listen to Ortiz talk about his excitement for being able to grab Jake Slaughter. Listen.
Talk about Jake. Just excited to get him. A player that unanimously scouts, coaches, everyone had pretty much the same exact grade on, which was a high-end grade. And, we got some calls and texts after we took him from other teams, which always makes you feel good. Damn, you took our guy. So it was fun to hear that. But he's a player that he's smart, tough, athletic, intelligent, 3-year starter, durable, and player. I know the question, and he's a center. We've had long discussions in the process. Do we feel like he could play guard in this scheme? And the answer to that question is absolutely. So.
That is winning draft strategy. And it sounds like from listening to other general managers calling Ortiz saying, you took our guy, it shows how high he was on a lot of draft boards, right? I like it. This regime is all about building a complete football team. And so far, I think the Chargers are doing exactly that. Before we get into day 3, I want to point something out that really tells you how Joe Ortiz and this front office approached this entire draft. The Chargers originally came into this draft with only 5 picks. 5. That's not a lot of ammo when you're trying to build depth, fix the trenches, add weapons, and continue reshaping this roster under Jim Harbaugh. But Joe Ortiz did what good general managers do. He worked the board. The Chargers made another important move by sending pick number 86 to the Cleveland Browns in exchange for picks number 105, 145, and 206. And that move mattered because instead of staying put and making one selection, the Chargers turned 1 pick into 3 opportunities to improve this football team. That's how you build real depth. That's how you attack day 3. By the time this draft was over, the Chargers had turned 5 original picks into 9. 9 picks. That tells you this front office wasn't just drafting for today. They were drafting for competition, for depth, for the future, and for the kind of physical football team Jim Harbaugh wants this roster to become. And honestly, I love that approach because championships are not built with stars alone. They're built with depth. They're built with development and smart roster construction. Joe Ortiz just did that. Now, with that being said, let's get into day 3 where the Chargers really started stacking value and finding players that fit exactly what Mike McDaniel and Jim Harbaugh wants this team to become. Joe Ortiz really started doing what Joe Ortiz does, right? That's finding value, stacking picks, moving around the board, and taking shots on guys that fit exactly what Jim Harbaugh and Mike McDaniel wants this football team to become. The first pick on Saturday for the Chargers was wide receiver Brennan Thompson out of Mississippi State. And let me tell you something. This pick makes perfect sense for Mike McDaniel. Now, look, Brennan Thompson is not a big receiver. He's only about 5'9", 167 pounds. And by the NFL standards, that's small. But you cannot teach what this man has. 4.26 speed. Let me say that again. 4.26 speed. You cannot coach speed like that. This man was the fastest player at the NFL Combine. And when you turn on the tape, you see it immediately. He led the SEC with over 1,000 receiving yards and had 57 catches, 7 total touchdowns. And for his career, he averaged almost 40 yards per touchdown. That tells you everything you're dealing with. Explosive home run hitter. This is Tyreek Hill type of speed, if not better. This is exactly the type of players that will excel in a Mike McDaniel system. Mike loves yak, yards after catch, in case someone didn't get it. That was what Mike McDaniel's offense was all about. Speed kills. And it scares the hell out of defenses and keep coordinators up at night trying to figure out how to slow it down because you're not going to stop it. This is not a possession receiver. This is not a move the chains type of a guy. This is a player that defenses have to respect the second he steps on the field because one wrong angle and poof, he's gone. And that alone is going to help your offense because now guys like Ladd McConkey and Quentin Johnston, they benefit from safeties having to back up and respect that speed. You create space. You stretch the defense horizontally and vertically. That's exactly what Mike McDaniel wants. This pick screams offensive identity. And honestly, I like it because the Chargers needed more explosiveness. The Chargers needed more speed. Too many times last year, this offense felt methodical, but not dangerous, right? Brennan Thompson brings danger. Now, after that, Joe Ortiz decided to trade up and go get Travis Burke, offensive tackle out of Memphis. And this is where you can clearly see Jim Harbaugh and Mike McDaniel meeting in the middle philosophically, right? Burke is massive, just under 6'9", 325 pounds. This is a grown-ass man. He's known for ridiculous grip strength, mauling defenders, and just physically taking people out of plays. He also graded very high in zone blocking concepts, which is important because that tells you Mike McDaniel sees him as a fit for what he wants to do offensively. Now, I will say this. The Chargers really like this guy because they gave up a lot to move up, only 6 spots. But clearly they had their eye on Burke and didn't want to risk losing him. Let's listen to what Brian Baldinger had to say about Travis Burke.
So the first thing the Chargers got to do after drafting Travis Burke, number 78 from Memphis, is measure him against Joe Walton, see who's taller. Because, you see, Travis Burke is 6'9", but look at his knee bend. Look at the long arms. He's got everything you want to be able to protect the edges. He's even gone over to left tackle. You know, right tackle, left tackle, maybe that's his position, is to be able to swing back and forth, backing up the bookends that they already have, to have insurance right there at that position. And once he gets those arms extended, just like it is with Joe Alt, it's over. Like, he's got ability. Like, that's 6'9", and look at the knee bend. And then look at how he gets underneath these smaller defensive tackles and pushes them in the run game right there, knowing that they're going to score. Like, there's a lot to like about Travis Burke. I cross-referenced him with a lot of general managers, and they all said similar things. Like, they've got themselves a real prospect here in Burke. And so his size, like you can see, once he gets attached to guys, he can roll them up. And then once he gets them rolling and gets them on skates, he's going to stay after him. Travis Burke is a bolt, and I like the pick.
I love that breakdown of Burke by Brian Baldinger, who knows a thing or two about great play as an offensive lineman in the NFL. So in a division with players like Nick Bonito and some of those young pass rushers that Kansas City keeps bringing in, all of that matters, right? But if he develops, this feels like a possible replacement for Trey Pipkins or Trevor Penning down the road. More importantly, the Chargers learned a lesson last year. When injuries hit that offensive line, there was no real depth. They are fixing that right now. Then came safety Genesis Smith. And this one was interesting, right? Because on paper, people may say, why are we taking a safety this early with Derwin James, Elijah Molden, Tony Jefferson, and R.J. Mickelson already here? But I actually get it. I understand it. Genesis Smith is a true deep safety. He's 6'2", long, rangy. He's a ball hawk. He reads quarterbacks well. He tracks the football well. He gets into passing lanes and make quarterbacks nervous throwing over the top. That's valuable, right? Especially when you're building this defense after Jesse Minter and trying to establish what Chris O'Leary wants this defense to look like moving forward. Now, the real issue is this, and it's a real one. It's tackling. All report says he struggles badly in open field tackling. And the NFL, if you can't tackle, offensive coordinators will find you and they will expose you. So that part has to improve. But early on, with veterans ahead of him, he doesn't have to be rushed. He can develop, he can learn behind Derwin James, and hopefully grow into that fourth safety role, right? Then the Chargers grab defensive lineman Nick Barrett out of South Carolina. This is another developmental pick. He's not flashy. He's not going to wow you with pass rush numbers. He's more of a block eater, a two-gap guy, someone who helps create congestion in the middle. And honestly, after losing Deshaun Hand and not exactly making huge upgrades next to Tia Tart, other than Dalvin Tomlinson being brought in, that makes sense. You need rotational depth inside. Barrett is one of those guys where if he adds more lean mass and develops physically, he can be useful in a defensive line rotation. Now, some draft boards had him lower. So people may question the value here, and that's fair. But let's be honest. Joe Ortiz and this front office have already shown they can find talent late. Taheeb still is proof of that. Sometimes these are the exact picks that end up surprising people. Then we get to Logan Taylor from Boston College. And I actually like this one a lot. They keep producing NFL linemen, and Logan Taylor fits the mold. He's 6'7", over 300 pounds, tough as nails. And the one thing I love, this guy doesn't come off the field. He plays through everything. And that matters to Harbaugh, right? He's played tackle, guard, basically everything except center. That versatility is huge because injuries happen every single year. I see and understand what the Chargers are doing. He's one of those guys who may not get headlines. Coaches love players like this. Reliable, tough, and available. And availability matters. We know that. I think he has a real shot to fight for one of those final roster spots. Then with the second 6th-round pick, the Chargers took Alex Harkey out of Oregon. Another offensive lineman. Another guy who fits the plan. Harkey played right tackle at Oregon. He started 14 games. He was part of a unit that allowed only 2 sacks across nearly 200 snaps. And across his college career, he only allowed 5 total sacks. Now, that matters. Now, the Chargers announced him as a guard. And honestly, that's probably where he will best fit in the NFL. He's got the size, quick feet, and good movement skills, but I can see he still needs work. When you look at his film, you see a lot of good and a lot of bad. Guard allows him to use his athleticism while developing some of the power aspects of his game, but he struggled on a lot of film that I saw from the tackle position. This tells me one thing clearly. The Chargers are serious about protecting Justin Herbert. Jake Slaughter, Travis Burke, Logan Taylor, Alex Harkey. That is not accidental. That is an organization saying we are going to fix the trenches. And honestly, I love that. Last season, myself as well as a lot of Charger fans had real concerns, and rightfully so. There was a lot of heat on Jim Harbaugh and Joe Ortiz about how things played out last season, especially when it came to protecting Justin Herbert, right? You got one of the most talented quarterbacks in the National Football League, a franchise guy. And week after week, we watched him take hit after hit. That's not just frustrating, that's dangerous. Fans started asking serious questions, not just about the season, but about Herbert's future. Because we've seen this story before in the NFL. A great quarterback gets beat up long enough, and eventually he starts thinking about his long-term health, pulling an Andrew Luck and walking away earlier than anybody expected, right? But when you look at this draft, it tells a completely different story. The Chargers didn't ignore the problem, they attacked it. Drafting 4 offensive linemen sends a very clear message. They may not have drafted the offensive linemen that we were all hearing about from different networks on the ESPNs or the NFL networks or even on the sports apps and online and all that stuff, but they drafted offensive linemen that they felt can come in and get the job done. They obviously heard the criticisms. They saw what was happening, and they're probably still not done. They are not playing around when it comes to protecting their quarterback this season, and they shouldn't, right? That's how you build trust with your franchise player. That's how you protect your investment. And more importantly, that's how you make sure Justin Herbert can be on the field, not just for the season, but for years to come. Because if you protect your franchise quarterback and establish the run game, everything else opens up. That's how Harbaugh builds football teams. That's how championship teams are built. Not flashy, not sexy, but physical, tough, and reliable. And that's exactly what the Chargers are trying to become. I absolutely think the Chargers nailed this draft for who they want to be and what they're trying to build. And I do feel they are much better and more talented and a deeper team than they were last year. And so my expectations are to get to the playoffs again and this time do some damage. And before we close this out, if you made it all the way to the end of this podcast, I just want to say sincerely thank you. Thank you for staying here. Thank you for listening to me, hearing my takes, hearing my views, whether you agree or not, and just supporting what I'm building. I truly appreciate every single one of you because your time matters. And the fact that you choose to spend some of it here with me, it means a lot. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Chargers Talk 4630. Share it with somebody else who loves football, who loves the Chargers, and loves real conversations about what's going on with this team. And also, please go check out my new website, www.slmexpressions.com. I've got Chargers content on there. I have music that I created on there. I'm a music producer, and I have books that I've written that's available there as well. I started building this website during the off season. So while things were a little quiet before free agency period started, I was putting that work in behind the scenes. It's almost where I want it to be. And I'd love for you to go check it out and support it. Go ahead and register with your email, create a username and password, and join the community. It's completely free. You can start your own post and we will follow along with our responses or whatever. That way, I can keep you updated on everything I'm doing, from the podcast to the music to the books and everything in between. And let me know what you thought about today's podcast. What did you think about my views? What did you think about these draft picks? If you didn't like them, tell me why. And if you didn't like them, do you understand the direction that the Chargers are trying to go and the type of players that they're trying to bring in that will fit what they're building? And as always, thank you again for your support. You can also find me on TikTok at Boat Forever, on X at RetireN26997, and on Instagram at Charters Talk 4630. I appreciate you all. I'll see you guys soon, and vote up.